All right, today we're diving into the generation that, for better or worse, basically built the modern world we live in, the baby boomers. Now, you hear a lot about them, but their impact is just undeniable. And their whole story kicks off with this really fascinating twist between the future they thought they were getting and the one they ended up creating for all of us. The story of the boomers is this perfect example of expectation versus reality. Growing up, they were soaked in all these sci fi dreams about what the year 2000 was going to look like. They were picturing a future full of personal jetpacks and sleek flying cars zipping around. But the future they actually delivered? Something completely different. Yeah, instead of flying cars, they gave us the personal computer, the internet, and, the very device you might be watching this on right now. So you could say they kind of missed the mark on the flying car, but they ended up inventing the entire digital roadmap for it instead. So, who exactly are the boomers? Let's get a really clear picture of this generation that just changed everything. So, the name itself, baby boomer, comes from the massive boom in births that happened right after World War II. It was this unique moment of kind of global relief and optimism, and their timing was incredible. It put them smack dab in the middle of one of the fastest periods of change in all of human history. I mean, just try to wrap your head around the scale of change they saw. They were born into a world where high tech was a crackling radio and a fuzzy black and white TV. But by the time they were young adults, that world was totally transformed by rock and roll, by vibrant color television, in the very, very first whispers of mobile communication. It was a total reality shift, and it all happened in their formative years. And here's the key thing. They didn't just watch this happen, they were the ones in the driver's seat. They were the architects who took what was science fiction yesterday and made it our reality today. Okay, take the computer. It started out as this colossal machine that literally filled an entire room. But it was boomers like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates who really led the charge, the revolution that shrunk that thing down and put a personal computer on pretty much every desk in the world. And it's the exact same story with the telephone. In the 1980s, a team at Motorola, led by a boomer named Martin Cooper, showed off the first portable cell phone. Now, that giant brick, and it was a brick, it looks hilarious to us now, but that thing was the direct ancestor of the supercomputer sitting in your pocket today. You can actually see this incredible acceleration when you put it on a timeline. It's like the 1969 moon landing just set this audacious tone for what was possible. And then, boom, a cascade of innovation. The PC in the 70s, the first mobile phone in the 80s, and then the World Wide Web just explodes into public life in the 90s. It was an unbelievable sprint, and it was all happening on their watch. But their influence wasn't just in circuits and code. No way. They also completely reshaped our culture, right down to the very things we eat and drink. A lot of them grew up on simple, home-cooked meals. But as they got older and flooded into the workforce, they totally embraced this new culture of convenience. Fast food chains blew up, frozen dinners were sold as this futuristic dream, and pizza went from being this niche ethnic dish to a global obsession. And their taste in drinks tells a really similar story. Just think about it. The wild, colorful cocktails of 70s discos, the whole modern convenience of instant coffee, and the very first energy drinks that fueled that new work hard, play hard mentality. So beyond the tech and the culture, the boomers were also a generation of literal builders. And to see just how deeply they shaped the physical world, we're going to zoom in on one amazing case study, the nation of Brazil, where their labor physically built the modern country we see today. So as this generation came into their own, their work became the engine that literally raised the cities, the highways, and the industries that now define modern Brazil. Let's start with a city like Curitiba, which is famous for its incredible planning. It was the boomer workforce back in the 1970s that built its revolutionary public transport system. This wasn't just some local project. It became a model for cities all over the world, a global benchmark. Okay, now let's head deep into the Amazon, to the city of Manaus. So, the free economic zone was created here back in '67, right? But an idea is just an idea. It was the boomer generation's labor that turned that idea into the massive industrial and tech hub that it is today. And of course, you see this most clearly in the absolute megacities of São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. The boomer workforce literally built modern São Paulo. They're the ones who erected the skyscrapers and the viaducts that made it a financial capital. And in Rio, they built massive projects like the metro system. They laid the very foundations we stand on.
So when you pull all this together, the technology, the culture, the actual cities, it brings us to what you might call the central paradox of the whole boomer legacy.
And it's captured perfectly in this idea. You've heard the trope, right? The boomer complaining that my time was better. Well, the great irony is that their time was the era when the world started changing faster than at any point in history, and it was largely because of the very things they were building and embracing.
So, from the PC to the modern city, their fingerprints are absolutely everywhere. They really were the architects of our world. And that leaves all of us with a really powerful question to think about. They faced their challenges and built all this. Faced with our own, what foundations are we going to build for the generations that come after us?